So in this example, we need to prove that triangle RUV is congruent to triangle SUT. So RUV is congruent to SUT. This triangle and this triangle. Now, they want us to write a two-column proof. And what they do tell us is RST is a rectangle. That is awesome. Because once we know it's a rectangle, remember all those characteristics we wrote down last class period? Right? Since they just said it's a rectangle, we can now say that, could we give a argument that these two sides are parallel? Could I say that now? Yeah, it's a rectangle, right? Could I say these two sides are parallel? Yeah. Could I say that these two sides are congruent? Yep. These two long sides are congruent? Right? Yeah, that's what's so cool about it. When it says it's a rectangle, now you have all these things that you can say you know for a fact, because those are properties of rectangles. And it also tells us U is the midpoint of VT. That's huge, because remember, Camilla, do you remember what happens when we say it's the midpoint? When I put something as a midpoint, where do I put it? I put it in where? To the left of to the left of the line, in the right of the line, or in the middle of the line. And if something's in the middle of the line, can we now say those two sides are equal in measure? Yes? OK, so two-column proof, though. You guys know that with two-column proof, there's really no reason for you guys to not try this problem by at least setting up the proof and writing the givens. So we know that RST V is a rectangle, because that's given. OK. We also know that U is the midpoint of VT. And why do we know that? Because that's given. OK. So everybody in the class, when I walk around today, I at least expect you guys to have that much. Right? It doesn't. I mean, you're just writing down a two-column proof and writing down the givens. You don't even have to process any information yet. But now, as I mentioned, automatically when I hear midpoint, or if I hear that it's an angle bisector, right, or perpendicular bisector, I know it cuts that line in half. So now the first thing I'm going to say, and this is from proofs when we did with triangles, I'm going to say VU is congruent to TU. Why do I know that those two are congruent? Because it's the definition of midpoint. OK? Now, as I mentioned, one of the things that I knew about triangles was that those two opposite sides are equal, right? We know that opposite sides of triangles are equal in measurement. So now I can say that RV is congruent to ST. Why are those congruent? Because that's the definition of a rectangle. All right. So now I have two sides. OK? Now, if you guys remember, when we trying to prove congruence of triangles, we have side, 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 angle, side, angle. We have HL, angle, angle, side. So right now we have two sides. So that means I need to show either that this is, I need to either show that these two angles are equal to each other, or these two sides are equal to each other. And even though these look like they're equal, I don't really have a definition or a reason why I could say they're equal. They look like they're equal. Yes?
Did you say that equal because it's the definition of a rectangle?
What, these two sides?
I mean the angles.
So what definition of a rectangle would tell you that those angles are equal?
Every angle of a rectangle is equivalent to 90 degrees.
Exactly. All the angles, yeah. So we know, actually, that these angles are equal to each other. How do we know they're equal to each other? Because we know that they're both right angles. Right? They're right angles. So you can just say that our angle, RVU, is congruent to angle STU, because, yeah, definition of a rectangle. Because when the properties of rectangles, when we, last class period, we talked about parallelograms, or 2 class periods we talked about parallelograms, and then last class period we talked about rectangles. And the difference between a parallelogram and a rectangle is, one, a rectangle, the diagonals bisected, or the diagonals were equal in measurement, which we did last problem. And the other special property was that a rectangle has all the angles are equal in measure, which equal 90 degrees. So that was 2 extra things we did in our notes last class period. So now, do you see what the congruency statement is? Side, angle, side. Side, angle, side. And please make sure, guys, when you're writing down your proofs, that you write down the triangles in congruent form. So I'm going to say triangle RVU is congruent to triangle. If I go RVU, I'm not going to want to go TUS. Okay, go in their congruent parts. STU is congruent to STU. Why are they congruent to each other? Because side, angle, side. There we go.